Thanks for joining us on I Met Jesus. This is where we are exploring the lives of some people in Scripture who encounter Jesus Christ and they walk away changed one way or another. You can't be neutral when you encounter Christ. We hope that you learn a lot from the podcast, and we hope that it challenges you and what your encounter with Christ is like as well.
Welcome into the Crossroads podcast. It's going to look a little bit different this week. It's going to sound a little bit different this week because you've got me, Kevin. We have Wes.
That's me.
But joining us is Ryan.
Yo.
Soon to be staff member of Crossroads. We'll see how the vote goes. But I want to just point something out real quick. So Jason was sick. I acknowledge that.
Yep. He was kind of sick.
Last week he did the podcast. Oh, really tough to move and get energy. But you know, when it's time for that cruise, he seems to be fine to go on vacation.
Yeah, he's fine. He's in Bermuda today. Don't you feel bad for him?
What about Bahamas?
He's not in Bahamas, but I do know the song
You
reference.
think he might go to Key Largo?
I don't think so. Can you sing it for us, Kevin?
No, I won't. All right, so I have been given this handy-dandy questionnaire so we can learn about Ryan.
That is produced by our friend ChatGPT.
Ah.
The deep cut questions.
Did you give me this sheet because you didn't think I would know how to ask people questions about themselves?
I thought it might be fun to do this rapid fire, so I was trying to give you some very different they're different than normal get to know you questions, but they're also designed to be rapid fire, so this podcast is not 2 hours this week.
All right, Ryan, let's learn about you. What is your go-to coffee or tea order?
If it's here at the church, it's probably just going to be black coffee. If I'm going out to get something nice, Wes knows, dirty chai.
Dirty chai.
Dirty chai iced, no matter the season.
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Definitely a night owl. Definitely a night owl.
Cosign. What's one song you will never skip?
Ooh, there's a bunch. I mean,
I'm gonna try this again. What is one song that you will never skip?
I think it's a crime to skip Bohemian Rhapsody. Because
Yes.
of how iconic it is.
Agreed. That is a great answer.
Thank you.
Who's your favorite biblical character besides Jesus?
Besides the big man, I'm gonna go with Peter. I think Peter's the Rock for a reason. Very
Like
relatable.
Dwayne Johnson, The Rock.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I like it.
Same frame, same accolades.
It's going to be wild when we get to heaven and Peter's going to just be like ripped like Dwayne Johnson, and like they're going to look the same.
Well,
Yeah.
let's-
So am I, because I'm going to look how I want to look. Kevin. All right.
That's true.
Mountains or, for some reason, the beach?
I'm going with mountains. I love a
Good.
good hike.
Yeah,
love a
this
good
is
view.
Team Mountain, I think, all here.
Beach is the worst.
I don't like sand. It's uncomfortable.
I like the water at the beach, not the sand.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm a pool guy.
Oh, do you have a pool?
No.
Oh, that took a turn. All right, Wes, I'm going to go to you on this because what I've learned from doing this podcast with you is you might not have the vastest array of pop culture knowledge. Does that feel fair?
More than you think, probably.
Okay.
But,
Every once in a while you'll be like, I don't even know what that is. And I'm like,
well, I don't watch movies, so that's part of the problem.
oh, okay. Well, I'll alter this question.
Well, what's the question?
It was, what is the last TV show or movie you watched that you really liked?
TV show, can we go documentary? It's on
No.
Netflix. It's a TV show.
Is it a murder documentary?
It's, well, probably, I guess it could be considered that. American Manhunt, Osama bin Laden. I think that is probably considered
okay.
a murder documentary.
Do you have a favorite thing you've watched recently that is not educational?
The Pit, right?
Yeah, The Pit was good.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that in
Pit
the
was
sermon.
good. And I'm a serial Office watcher.
Okay.
So I mean, it's always on in our home. Caitlin hates it, but I love The Office. So
What?
I think she likes The Office. She doesn't like the idea of rewatching.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
And we've got to be on time like 35 at this point. So.
Oh, okay. Who is your favorite Office character?
Probably Jim.
Interesting. Even though he was engaged in cheating and breaking up an engagement.
Thank you. I'm so glad I didn't say my next line, which was, I feel like we have some things in common.
Wow!
Safe.
Breaking news here on the cross. Do you enjoy The Office?
I do love The Office. Jason was also the one who introduced me to it, and
Who's your favorite character on The Office? And did they not engage in an inappropriate, potentially extra
I feel like that's the
marital
whole
affair?
cast, just to be clear.
that's true. I mean, I love all the characters for their own reasons. I think.
Give an
Okay.
answer.
Come on, Ryan.
My bad. Michael Scott, I mean, is the
Yeah.
heart of the show.
He's never engaged in any extramarital.
Yeah. How big of a mistake do you think it was to have 2 more seasons after he left the show?
I think it left us sour taste.
Yeah.
Sour taste. I don't think you
Fair.
keep going if
Yeah.
you're losing the star.
Do you rewatch all of the seasons, or
Fast.
when Michael leaves, do you move on?
This might be unpopular, but like season 2 and then 8 and 9 are like the ones I could care less for. So
Oh,
9, you have to watch the finale though. Like the finale.
the finale
so
is great.
good. So-
Agreed. So, as I said, welcome back to our pop culture office / biblical podcast. Hope you're enjoying it so far. All right, and then Ryan, what is the first concert you ever attended?
First concerts, I'll say other than like a worship concert. 'Cause
Yes.
I was doing that forever, but I think it was One Republic. My
Oh,
sister took me when I was in middle school, and
that song "Secrets" is still a banger.
it is a banger.
All right, we're gonna go to Bethesda today.
Is that what we're calling it?
I mean, we're going to John, but you know,
I'm going to call it Bethsaida. You can call it Bethesda.
Bethsaida. What?
You know, right?
Oh my goodness,
I'm from Texas, guys.
this is really rocking my world.
It is spelled Beth. Oh, it is ESDA. See, Bethesda.
Womp, womp,
Listen.
womp.
I mean, y'all can host the show. You're the host, so go ahead.
No, I'm the
Bethesda.
I'm the moderator. I lead you.
Bethesda.
I lead you to the pool, and then I guess you
wait.
should. I guess you shouldn't drink out of the pool. All right,
I should not. Drink
So
out.
we're going to be in John 5 today, 5:1 through 23.
Whenever we stop.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we're going to try a radical idea, and we all love Jason. We love Jason. He loves Jesus and the Bible a lot. So Wes tries to read through the whole thing, and then we go back. We don't really usually make it that far. So we're going to attempt
To get to the end.
to read all of the things
Sounds good.
and then dive back into it.
Great. Here we go. John 5, verse 1.
There you go.
Because I forget to say that every time.
There you go.
After this, a Jewish festival took place. This is where Jason would go, wait a second. We gotta stop. Sorry.
We love you, Jason.
And Jesus went up to Jerusalem. By the sheep gate in Jerusalem, there is a pool called Bethesda in Aramaic, which has 5 colonnades. Within this lay a large number of the disabled, blind, lame, and paralyzed. One man was there who had been disabled for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and realized he had already been there a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to get well?" "Sir," the disabled man answered, "I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up, but while I'm coming, someone goes down ahead of me." "Get up," Jesus told him, "pick up your mat and walk." Instantly the man got well, picked up his mat, and started to walk. Now that day was the Sabbath, and so the Jews said to the man who had been healed, "This is the Sabbath. The law prohibits you from picking up your mat." He replied, "The man who made me well told me, 'Pick up your mat and walk.'" "Who is this man who told you, 'Pick up your mat and walk'?" they asked. But the man who was healed did not know who it was, because Jesus had slipped away into the crowd that was there. After this, Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, "See, you are well. Do not sin anymore, so that something worse doesn't happen to you." The man went and reported to the Jews that it was Jesus who made him well. Therefore, the Jews began persecuting Jesus because he was doing these things on the Sabbath. Jesus responded to them, "My Father is still working, and I am working also." This is why the Jews began trying all the more to kill him. Not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but he was even calling God his own Father, making himself equal to God. Jesus replied, "Truly I tell you, the Son is not able to do anything on his own, but only what he sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does, the Son likewise does these things. For the Father loves the Son and shows him everything he is doing, and he will show him greater works than these, so that you will be amazed. And just as the Father raises the dead and gives them life, so the Son also gives life to who he wants. The Father, in fact, judges no one, but has given all judgment to the Son, so that all people may honor the Son just as they honor the Father. Anyone who does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him. Lots of father-son stuff.
Right, I'm really
Get to
proud of us both for not
locked in.
interrupting, especially because I almost did it at the end of verse 2.
Did I say something wrong?
No, you didn't. I don't know what a colonnade is. Can you enlighten me on that?
Do you know?
I think it's like a big pillar of some sort.
Yeah, it's either pillar or porch.
Okay.
So
But I almost said something and I was like, it's verse 2, bro. Like, you gotta let him go. All right.
but we should get back to that in a minute.
Okay.
Let's talk about 5
Okay. So
needs.
let's go back
Okay.
to the beginning.
Great. Where are we? Verse 1. So after this, Jewish festival took place, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. So we'll talk about the festival because nobody knows what festival it is. There's kind of 3 major Jewish festivals. There's a lot of speculation it could have been Passover.
Okay.
The reason for that is if you start to if you time out Jesus' ministry, we say this phrase all the time, like Jesus had 3 years of his 3 years of earthly ministry that's recorded in the Gospels. If you date from his crucifixion back to this Passover, it's about 3.5 years. So,
Which I'm sure people have put together very rigid charts of. And,
sure,
okay.
absolutely. But it could be Passover. It could be a lot of different things. The point is, there are a lot of people here. I think that's really what they're getting at is a lot of people have gathered into Jerusalem at this place for a festival. They're about to leave. Or sorry, no, they're not about to leave. They are there for the festival. And then it says, by the sheep gate in Jerusalem, there is a pool called Bethesda, not Bethsaida. I'm gonna just mess it
No,
up.
I seriously, and I promise I wasn't making fun of you.
No, you're
I
fine.
really thought, oh my gosh, have I been saying that wrong?
No,
the
my
whole time?
eyes are just not good anymore. You know anything about Sheepgate?
The sheep gate, yeah. So the sheep gate was generally what they brought in the sacrificial animals for, especially for a time like Passover, where each one of these families was doing this massive travel undertaking to celebrate this festival. And so the sheep gate would have been a very busy place at this time.
Okay, I'm really glad that you said that because one of the things that I've learned as we've gone along is the economy of words in the Bible. Like there are plenty of times when I feel like, oh, I really could have used a little bit more detail on that or whatever. And so sometimes there are things like that with the sheep gate that I think in my head, that doesn't feel like particularly the most relevant, but it kind of builds up the idea that there are a lot of people around to.
Yeah, it does that. It also is going to bring some themes to the story that we need to know. So like sheep for them would have been the animal they sacrificed for the atonement of their sin, to represent their covenant with the Lord. They would have, everyone walking through the sheep gate with their sheep are looking for connection to God. They're looking for healing from their sin. They're looking for the kind of the reinstatement of that covenant. That's why they're there. So it says that he's by the sheep gate at the pool of where?
Bethesda.
Because I'm going to mess it up every time today because I read this wrong all the 2 weeks I've been looking at this story. So
Parker knew it.
that's true. Parker, do you want to switch seats? Come on, man.
No,
That'll be great. So there's some stuff about the pool that they're at that's super important. Did you do any research on that? Sorry, we haven't even talked. So
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, so you're good. If you want to talk a little bit about the pool, I think it might be helpful.
Sure.
Before we get into what happened.
So yeah, as we get to this pool, just think of the underlying symbolism, like Wes said, that the sheep gate symbolizes the sacrifice that we bring to connect with God. And how fitting is it that Jesus, the Lamb of God, would walk into this place, the Pool of Bethesda, which is full of deep suffering. These people that gather around this pool are, in the text it says they're blind, lame, paralyzed, disabled. It's not a fun sight. And Bethesda, the word itself, means house of mercy. And I think Jesus illustrates that perfectly when he comes into this place, is to bring healing on people that maybe don't deserve it, we'll find aren't even asking for it.
Yeah.
So the Pool of Bethesda, we mentioned the colonnades earlier. massive pillars around it that would have these possible porches so that the sick could rest in this spot, indicating it was a place of mercy on these people. I don't know if we want to get into the verse 4 controversy of the setting the scene.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, this is a really interesting piece of scripture that we have possibly missing. Is if you look at, your copy of, what translation you have in John 5, you might be missing verse 4.
And you know what? As soon as you said that, I am missing verse
Right.
4.
Yep.
Why is that?
So, in the earliest manuscripts of the text, verse 4 wasn't included. And so that's why we don't have it, is because the translations that we have are doing their due diligence to be as accurate as possible.
Okay.
But later editions kind of go on to say that an angel stirred the water of the Pool of Bethesda.
Yeah, so literally verse 4 says, verse 3 says, within these lay a large number of disabled, blind, lame, and paralyzed. Verse 4, waiting for the moving of the water, because an angel would go down into the pool from time to time and stir up the water. Then the first one who got in after the water was stirred up, recovered from whatever ailment he had.
Which that actually gives me a little bit more context for later on when the man is like, hey, I'm trying to get there, but I can't because people go ahead of me.
Yeah, I think context is like the key word there. The fact that it's missing doesn't mean that we're missing the core message of this text. But if we are going to take it, it does give some context to why these sick people would lay here for years.
Yeah.
Because they must have seen possibly something supernatural
Sure.
to continually stay in pursuit of healing.
But a lot of people would say that this would actually be a place of pagan worship. So that they've connected it to the wrong god or a different god. And it was very ritualistic, very... it's a very sick place is probably the word I would use. Obviously you have deaf, blind, disabled, lame, all these people that are here, and it's almost that this place is the last resort.
Okay.
Like when you see this man, he's been here for 38 years.
Yeah.
This is the last place he can go. This is the last place for hope. And he has looked to the pool for hope consistently. He keeps looking at this place for hope. But I think before we get there, there is a belief that the 5 colonnades have a purpose. So that the 5 colonnades, the reason it says there's 5 is because they're potentially connected to the 5 books of the law. So they would actually be considered like representative of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. And as you look into the story, what you're going to learn is that the law can't heal this guy. So in a lot of ways, the Pool of Bethesda is going to be representative of all the things that can't heal us.
Okay.
Which is why most scholars would go, the idea that an angel would come in and stir up the waters is a pagan belief, not a belief of actually Judaism or the Christian faith. It's they've attached it to something else. Yeah. They're looking for healing from somewhere else. So I don't know if that helps.
Yeah. No,
I think
that is very interesting.
The context of like verse 2, sheep gate, Bethesda, 5 colonnades, like those 3 things set up this whole story. So if you miss that, you're going to miss all, like the conversation with Jesus is so short.
Yeah.
That if you miss where they're at, kind of setting the scene, you're going to miss the whole purpose of the story.
Is there any particular reason for the 38 years outside of you just need to know it's a really long time?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
There's no indication that I think there's a couple of possibilities here. One,
You can see why I would ask, right?
Yeah, because everything else has
Yeah.
a lot of meaning here.
Yeah.
But I think one distinction that he doesn't say is that he's been disabled from birth. So a lot of times what you see in the text is like, this man was blind from birth or this from birth. So we have no idea how old this guy is.
Okay.
Like you'll read some things that say he's 38 years old. We don't know that. He could be 68 years old. He could have lived 30 years of his life fine and then was paralyzed 38 years ago. We have no idea what this guy's story is.
And so I promise I'm not trying to like skip all the way ahead, but I just want to ask if it would tie into this one other thing, because later on Jesus does say stop sinning, or it could be something worse. Does that lead me to believe that like what happened to him befell him because of something he should not have been doing?
It's possible. Let's get there though at the end,
Okay.
because I think that's the big takeaway of the whole story.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. I think the only other thing with the 38 years is that with that being the time frame given, most likely that is like longer than many people had the chance to even live back in
Right.
that day. And for that to be that long, this man is just a symbol of hopelessness.
Yeah.
You've gone this much time without healing. At this point, you are simply waiting for death, and you are being just overlooked by the rest of society for that fact.
yeah, I think one of the things that represents that in the text is the next verse. It says, when Jesus saw him lying there, and then the next part is so important, and realized he had already been there a long time. Which, what I hear is, Jesus notices this guy has set up shop at this place. Like, he has built his home in hopelessness. And stay tuned Sunday. We're going to talk about joy and hopelessness, but just the idea of like, this guy has given up. And we're going to know that because of Jesus' first question to him, that he knows this guy has given up.
Yeah.
Because the question, why do you think he asks him? So we're gonna switch roles for a moment.
Okay. Yeah.
Why do you think Jesus asked this question in verse 6?
Because it does.
Do you want to get well? Another version of this is going to say, do you want to be healed?
Because it does seem like more often than not, he's like, hey, I need a little bit of buy-in on your part. I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but he's like, I mean, I could fix you, no problem, but that's not going to fix you, like teach a man to fish kind of thing, And so I kind of think he's like, hey, but do you want to get healed, or do you want to like really get well?
What do you think?
Yeah, I think Jesus is asking something deeper than just physical. He's asking the whole of your life. This is kind of where you've gotten to. If I do heal you, you're not going to be able to stay here anymore, or at least you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And you've made it clear, at least to Jesus, that as soon as he walks up, he can see he's set up shop in this place. Do you even want to have a changed life?
Which he does not seem to pick up on in the surface answer that he gives, do you think? I just want to let you know, my self-esteem ebbs and flows depending on if you guys think my answers are at least acceptable. Yeah. Even if you don't think they're right.
Your answer is definitely acceptable.
Okay.
I think this actually is a huge application point, even before we get to his response, so Ryan is, God willing, Sunday we're going to vote on him to come on staff in care ministry at our church. And I help oversee care and missions. We're hoping to vote yes, man.
I told him I would quit the podcast if they said no to you.
He
So.
need as
Great.
much leverage as I can.
But this is a question in care ministry when we work with people that are struggling that comes up a lot. You've probably encountered these people in your life. Some people love misery.
Yeah.
Some people, because they have been hopeless for so long, some people because it's comfortable. One of our counselors on our counseling team says it this way. Some people love to circle the drain.
Oh, without actually, yeah.
Yeah, like they just
that's
love,
fascinating.
Yeah, they just love to circle the drain.
Yeah.
And I think this is the question that Jesus is getting at is, do you want something different? Because transformation is going to start with a yes. So this guy's transformation is going to start with a yes to this question. At some point, he's going to have to go, yes, I want something different. Because if he doesn't, Jesus is not interested in healing or transforming us if we are unwilling.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus is not interested in unwilling transformation, right? This is the idea that, like, when we come into a relationship with God, that we confess him as Lord, that our yes is that God knows best for us and we want the life that he wants for us. Starts with yes. So what you're going to see is in this story, like, the question is, do you want to be healed? So when we talk about like regen, potentially like a ministry like Reengage for marriages and counseling, like when I'm counseling somebody, one of the first questions I ask is, do you want something different? Because if you don't, then I can't give you anything different. Jesus can't give you anything different if you don't want something different.
Yeah.
If you don't see that your life isn't just meant for hopelessness.
Yeah.
It isn't just meant for where you're at. It's meant for something more. Jesus wants to heal you. But the question is, do you want it? So,
Yeah. The question, I think, reveals that true healing comes with change, and that change is often uncomfortable. You said something really intriguing, that this transformation has to start with a yes, and for us, it's almost always true that we have to confess with our mouth, believe with our hearts. In this story, that's not the case. So what do we pick up from that? Is that Jesus questions, but he doesn't say yes. He actually gives an excuse. What is that?
I don't know that it's an excuse.
Okay.
I think that it's legitimate. I think this guy has seen something in the water. He has watched something happen miraculous, which was either literally miraculous or he felt like it was miraculous, and he has watched people be healed. And he's going, that is the thing that can heal me.
Yeah.
That pool is the thing that can heal me. So when Jesus says, do you want to be healed? He's going, the only path to healing that I know is that when the angel stirs up the water, I have to get in the water first. And I can't move. Mm-hmm. So this is the last resort thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's the attitude here. It's not so much an excuse of where he's going, Jesus, this is where I'm at. I don't know how. Mm-hmm. And he says, I have no one to put me in the pool when the water is stirred up. But while I'm coming, someone goes down ahead of me. And I think it shows here there's an effort for healing. So the answer, do you want to be healed, is yes. Mm-hmm. It is a yes. He doesn't know that healing comes from Jesus yet. Mm-hmm. And I think before we get to the big moment of the story, there's a point here of like, stop looking to the pool. Mm-hmm. So like, healing is standing in front of this guy. And he's like, but I want that thing. That thing worked for somebody else. That thing is healing people. And I think it's a good challenge for us to go, what are the things that we often look to for healing that maybe the world goes to, or we've seen our friends go to, that have somehow worked for them? And I would just say a lot of things that appear to work for other people, whether that be on social media or in life, often are a lie. The only thing that brings true healing is Jesus. So I think a challenge for us is like, stop looking to the pool. And Jesus, I think, is going to say that to him in the most direct way possible. Get up. Pick up your mat and walk.
He doesn't say get in the pool.
Right. The guy never gets in the pool, which is the whole point of the story. There's a crowd of people that are looking to the pool for healing. And this guy, who, by the way, all of them know, he's been there 38 years. Yeah. There's been lots of Passovers. There's been lots of festivals. There's been lots of stuff. There's been lots of sheep that have walked past this guy. Like, they know this guy can't walk. And he's never going to get in the pool, but he's going to get up and walk. And I think the yes, Ryan, that's implicit in the text is in verse 9.
At once, the man.
Yeah. Instantly, the man got well, picked up his mat, and started to walk. Because there is still a yes in that. Like, Jesus can say, get up and walk. Mm-hmm. And he can choose to lay on the ground and wait. So I think I don't know if that answers your question. It's a very long answer to your, is there a yes here? I think the yes happens after the command of Jesus, which I think is also true for us. Mm-hmm. Like, people hear the gospel and they respond with a yes. Mm-hmm. And then God does transformation. So I think that's what you see here with the guy. Y'all can talk about this a little bit. Think about all the miracles that happened in this moment. Like, all the miracles physically that happened for this guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, we have a 4 or almost 5-month-old now. Y'all have kids. Babies don't get up and walk.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Wyatt's not like going to just stand up today and just start walking. I know. He's an underachiever. I'm trying, Parker.
The analogy I'll give you right now then is Noah's potty training. And we're fully convinced he understands the system and knows what to do. Yet we're still not to the other side.
Yeah, and this guy's body hasn't walked in 38 years.
Yeah.
He has no sense of balance. His muscles have atrophied. He doesn't even know. His body physically does not remember how to walk. And he has the faith in this moment to go, I will get up and walk. I don't know. I just think it's pretty incredible.
Certainly is. Yeah, I think the word instantly speaks to that. Is
Yeah.
that there wasn't this moment of,
Let me think about it.
yeah, it was instant. The power of Christ instantly healed him.
Where are we in the 3.5-year timeline right here? If you know, okay.
Early.
Because what I was really curious is, like, is there an inflection point that you see in the Bible where, like, now everybody knows who he is? Because I get at the beginning, like, oh, and that guy from Nazareth.
Yeah, I mean, they know who he is. I mean, they know.
Okay.
Because you're going to see that, like, in what verse is it? Jesus found him in the temple, said to him, "See, you are well." The man went and reported to the Jews that it was Jesus.
Okay, so
because like Jesus has already encountered Nicodemus, who we've talked about. Jesus has already encountered the Samaritan woman. So there's been, which is the woman with 5 husbands.
5 husbands.
Yeah, so we've talked about her on the podcast. So like things have happened.
The buzz is built. and-
Yeah, John is going to record 7 signs in his gospel.
Yeah.
This is the 3rd one.
Okay.
So there's some buzz.
Okay.
They know who he is, but he's not like, I mean, we're not like weeks away from the cross yet.
Yeah.
And I would say this story in particular is a turning point for Jesus's reputation, especially for the Jewish leaders of the time, which probably, can we get into? Okay, so.
Man, you don't have to ask permission. You're on the podcast. So.
Well,
It's a good point.
first
Your thing,
time, this is
man.
the debut. I want to make sure I'm
Person in
staying
that
the-
seat
in the
never
boundaries.
asked for permission.
Cool.
So go ahead.
So yeah, I mean,
Love you, Jason.
up until this point, Jesus' ministry has become public, but it hasn't faced direct opposition from Pharisees in that time. Until
Pharisees, Jewish religious leaders.
Yeah.
Just so everybody knows who that is. Keep going.
And so the main kind of conflict that comes from this story is that let's start in verse 10. It says, "And so the Jews said to the man who had been healed, 'This is the Sabbath. The law prohibits you from picking up your mat.' And the man replied, 'The man who made me well told me, pick up your mat and walk.' 'Who is this man who told you, pick up your mat and walk?' But the man who was healed did not know who it was, because Jesus had slipped away into the crowd." Yes.
Yeah, just another thing there, and this has been an overarching theme, not only in some of the discussions here, but in church, is once again, Jesus cares not for credit. You know, like he's like,
Yeah. There's a lot of people there. So he's
Yeah.
just slipping into the crowd and doing his thing.
Whereas when we've talked about the devil, it's like, look at what I can do. Look how powerful I am. And Jesus is like, that's great.
It's a good contrast. So what is their deal? What's the deal with Sabbath? Why is this? How could they miss the miraculous healing
Yeah.
for this regulation that they hold so dear? So the core of Sabbath comes from the creation narrative that we get in Genesis. God creates the world in 7 days, and he does it good each day. He says that. And after he finishes creation, on the 7th day, he rests. And there's so much to unpack there. Ultimately, he's modeling for us that while we work, there must be a time for rest to find balance and ultimately to find connection with him. And God doubles down on this by putting it in the 10 Commandments. He instructs Israel to remember the Sabbath and to keep it holy.
Yeah, it's one of the coolest things. Sorry to interrupt you. I'll do Jason's role here. So
This is delightful.
yeah, it's one of my favorite parts of the 10 Commandments is the word remember. So the 10 Commandments, a lot of them are new commandments to Israel. Like Moses is getting the tablets and going, here are the things that you should do, how we should live. And it's the only commandment that says remember, which means the Sabbath, kind of Ryan's point, has been established since the beginning.
Yeah.
This was kind of a rhythm that God wanted for us from the beginning. Sorry, keep going.
No, you're good. Spiritually, the Sabbath pointed to something bigger, an invitation to true rest, which we know is fulfilled in Jesus. But at the time, it wasn't completely fulfilled yet, and especially for the Pharisees, they couldn't see that whatsoever. And so to see a man walking with his mat would be unlawful to them. And so amidst this transformative healing, there's no joy, there's no awe. They are just meeting them with judgment. And so we kind of talked about why they're so angry, because this was a rhythm that was established very early on. I mean, since the beginning of time. But in this moment when Jesus works on the Sabbath, he's undermining their authority.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are enforcing this at the time. And so he's challenging the religious system, and he's doing it without permission, right? And he told someone also to work on the Sabbath, which is directly opposed to what their idea of the Sabbath should be.
Yeah. And he doesn't have to ask for their authority, and they're not used to that.
Right.
Sure.
And I think that's so important. So what you're going to see here is, like we talked about this earlier with the man who's healed. The law couldn't heal the man. The law also can't heal the Pharisees. So like they're looking, like, imagine what just happened. They just saw a man that they know who's healed. And they're like, you shouldn't be picking up your mat. Like,
I don't care how long it's been since you couldn't walk.
yeah,
Not cool.
Stop carrying your mat.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point here is, like, they're missing the Savior because of the law. And it's a constant thing with the Pharisees. That's what they're trying to trap Jesus. We'll get into this in a minute.
Because it's their law and it's their power.
But weirdly, it's not their law.
Well,
It's Jesus' law. It's God's law.
Sure.
And the whole thing that they're looking for, the person they're looking for is standing in front of them. And they can't see him because they're so concerned with policing everybody else. Which, mark that. That's very convicting.
Yeah.
Like the thing that we often need from Jesus, when we need connection with God, we can miss because we're too concerned policing everybody else.
Yeah.
We're too concerned with what everybody else is doing, and God is going, I have something for you. If you would just slow down and have a conversation. But that's definitely not what they're going to do. I'm going to keep us moving a little bit. I love verse 14 because, like, you want to talk, like Ryan asked the question about a yes earlier. This is evidence of a yes. Mm-hmm. After this, Jesus found him. It's like he lost him, like this ridiculous language, but found him in the temple and said to him, see, you are well. Do not sin anymore so that something worse doesn't happen to you. I love that this guy's response to experiencing Jesus is worship. Right? Like he experiences what Jesus has done for him and he goes, I have one place to go. It is with the people of God to worship God. I don't know. For me, there's a power in that obedience, but it's also a good reminder for us to do that. But then he's going to get into this really weird statement, which he says to lots of people. I'm sure you've noticed this on the podcast, Kevin. Like the woman caught in adultery, the last thing Jesus says to her, go sin no more.
Yeah.
The weird thing is the clause that he puts at the end of it, do not sin anymore so that something worse doesn't happen to you. Do you have any idea what that means?
Well, I mean, to imagine something worse happening to this guy, you have to think outside the realm of, typical human suffering. I mean, this guy was paralyzed for 38 years.
Yeah.
So I think Jesus is speaking to a spiritual suffering, an eternal suffering that if you don't transform your heart, if you don't think about how you are connecting to God and your personal relationship with God, you will be eternally separated. And that is the greatest punishment or suffering we could experience as humans.
That is, I'm with you on that. That is pretty much what I kind of thought he meant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's another thing potentially here too. If it's just an encouragement to move forward, look forward. Don't look backwards. Like you've encountered Jesus and now you have a different life ahead of you. Do that thing, which is don't sin anymore. And I get I definitely think it's a reference to eternity when he says something worse doesn't happen to you.
Yeah.
But I think some of the something worse might be this, that you encountered Jesus and you had this great experience and then it changed to nothing else about your life. Like that you had this cool moment of healing and now you can walk and he's going, but I have so much more to offer you. Mm-hmm. And if you don't follow me in this and you don't follow me in obedience and you don't trust me, you're not going to experience that. And missing that is worse than the 38 years that you haven't been able to walk.
Right.
Which is a challenging thing to think about that if we miss the things that God has for us, it may be worse than the worst thing we've experienced.
Yeah.
Which is cool, because that means God's got a lot for us. So I don't know. That was like one thing that I thought when I was reading that part of the text, I was going, they definitely could be talking eternity. I mean, definitely makes sense. But also, is he just going, man, I have set you free for a life that you, and who knows, to your point, life expectancy isn't that long. He may not have much more life to live, but I have set you free for a life of purpose and mission and evangelism and sharing and worship. Man, go do those things so that your life, so you don't miss it. You don't miss what I have.
In the as we transition, because I kind of want to piggyback on that. Should I read the next line as, so he went to the Jewish leaders to be like, oh, Jesus is the best? Because it kind of feels a little bit like he's going to tattle on him. Like, I've probably misread that, but like, he knows the Jewish leaders are kind of in a huff about this, and then he says it was Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a matter probably of opinion here, what the motivation is. I have decided to read the text with just a pure intentioned person.
Yeah.
Like you just see like every interaction with Jesus to this point, I read as this guy is hopeless and desperate, and then he experiences radical transformation, and he's just answering the question that was asked of him in verse 12, who is the man that told you pick up your mat and walk?
Yeah.
So he was like, I don't know who it was. And then he saw him in the temple, and he was like, now I know who it was. I should go tell him.
Yeah.
I'll go tell him it's Jesus.
Okay.
And then the Jews began persecuting Jesus.
Yeah, that's why I love getting y'all's opinions on this, because things I've read and I'm like, this is kind of what I think, but I can see how there's a lot more.
Yeah,
to it.
I don't know. It could be that he's tattling. It feels weird that you would tattle on the guy that just
For sure.
healed you and made you walk, and you hadn't been able to do that. So just to be clear, everybody, right now we could be ending the podcast because this is where I thought the podcast was ending until yesterday.
Oh, neat.
Bonus. But Ryan was insistent that we move on to the next part. So
That's why you need to vote for him.
Thank you.
I love this.
I want to keep this.
I'm Team Ryan on this, man.
I'm on vacation Sunday, so I'm not voting.
What?
Abstaining.
You don't get to vote ahead of time?
I think I've already voted.
Well, that's one no. But you're going to need more than that.
Yeah. So,
Well, the reason that I wanted
tell us a little bit about why you wanted to get into this.
Yeah, for sure. So the reason I wanted to keep going through the text, we've kind of gotten through the narrative, but right after the rest of the chapter, Jesus is going to give us some theologically just groundbreaking information on how he views himself. And John sets this teaching up using this story because Jesus is teaching us he is the one who has the authority to fulfill the Sabbath. The Pharisees are in conflict with him because they think he's abusing the Sabbath by commanding people to work, but he is valuing relationship with his children. As he says, my Father is still working and I am working also. This is Jesus, and a lot of people will say, a lot of unbelievers will say Jesus doesn't claim to be God. This is one of these instances where you may be reading the text too much so at a surface level. 17 and 18, Jesus responded to them, my Father is still working and I am working also. This is why the Jews began trying all the more to kill him. Not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but he was even calling himself God, his own Father, making himself equal to God.
When you say the unbelievers say that he doesn't claim the God of his Father, or that he, is that because they're like, see, God didn't send his only son down? Or like, what's the line of logic for unbelievers who would say, well, he never says that in the Bible?
Yeah, I mean, I think oftentimes unbelievers will take that line of argument because there's not a single verse where Jesus says, I am God. I am.
Yeah.
Our notion of God, I am omniscient, I am omnipresent, omnipotent. He doesn't say that. He uses Hebraic language. He uses Old Testament language. He says, I am, right? using the title of Yahweh. He does it in these kind of nuanced ways that point that he is the true divine God-man. And so I think this part is huge to this story. That's why I didn't want to miss it. God rested on the seventh day from creation, but he never stops sustaining the universe. And Jesus claims that same authority. He's saying, I work like this because that's how God works, because I am the Son of God.
That's good stuff. I will say, I'm normally not on my phone on the podcast, but I was just on my phone. My son got shots today, which is not a great experience.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking father-son, and then I'm just like, he's not doing great, but it's okay. He's doing all right. He'll be all right. It's not fun. But
It's the look on their face when it's like, why did you let that happen to me?
abandonment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it hurt my heart this morning.
I feel for you.
But I think it is important here, and to answer your question, like why do some unbelievers claim this idea? This is not true for all unbelievers, so I'm not saying that this is not a blanket statement. It's just an observation in my time. I think because it's easy to say it.
Okay.
It's just an uninformed, I'm going to say ignorant, but I mean it in the literal form of the word ignorant, which is there's a lack of information and ignorance to how the Bible works and ignorance to how to read the Bible. And I can just latch on to this idea that, Jesus never said this. And I'm like, well, he did right here.
Yeah.
like it's in the text.
And it's honestly like probably comforting to unbelievers to
I can see
chalk
that,
up
yeah.
Jesus as this moral teacher. And if you claim him as a moral teacher, you don't have to submit to his lordship. And so can I reread this last section? Verse 19, he says, "Truly I tell you, the Son is not able to do anything on his own, but only what he sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does, the Son likewise does these things. For the Father loves the Son and shows him everything he is doing, and he will show him greater works than these, so that you will be amazed. Just as the Father raises the dead and gives them life, so the Son also gives life to them to whom he wants. The Father, in fact, judges no one, but has given all judgment to the Son, so that all people may honor the Son just as they honor the Father. Anyone who does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him." So I think John connecting these two passages right back to back is teaching us Jesus isn't just a teacher. He doesn't even just perform miracles. Jesus reveals God in human form. Every act of power that you see illustrated in the Gospels is a window into God's nature, that God is the great healer, the perfect physician. But Jesus doesn't operate independently through this. He's always in communion, in relationship with the Father and the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, I think like you're going to see Jesus constantly. And honestly, we talked a little bit about this Sunday morning, first week of the Fruit of the Spirit series. Is like the Father, Son, and Spirit are always working together.
Yeah.
So you're gonna see all this language throughout the ministry of Jesus that, like in the Lord's Prayer, Jesus is gonna say, "Not my will, but yours be done." In the Garden of Gethsemane, right before Jesus is crucified or taken to be crucified, he's gonna say, "Father, take this cup from me, but if not, I'm here to do your will." But you're gonna see these led by the Spirit of God constantly. So you have this kind of Trinity. What we believe about God is that he's Father, Son, Holy Spirit, always working together kind of for God's ultimate purpose, which I think is this, if I can try to land the plane for a minute. The whole point of this story, and like every story that we have covered and every encounter with Jesus that we've covered, is that our story is designed to point people to Jesus. Like the reason that we walk through things, like I'm trying not to get emotional. I'm thinking about my wife. I'll tell you why in a second. The reason we walk through things, the reason we encounter Jesus is so other people would encounter him also. Mm-hmm. So what you see with the guy in the story, like he gets healed. He runs to the temple. He goes to tell the Jewish leaders, I believe in excitement. Like because he's experienced Jesus. And I remember, I was just thinking about this morning. So in January of 2024, we lost a baby and to miscarriage, and it was really hard. And I remember we were sitting in the sonogram room. We hadn't even seen the doctor yet, but the sonographer it was very obvious that our baby didn't have a heartbeat. And my wife looked at me in the sonogram room and said, "People will know this because God is in this. And what we've seen is like God use it like, because we feel like, and even in our worst moment, the worst thing that we've walked through, God showed up and we felt like we encountered Jesus through the healing and grief of that. And I think if we could look at our story, and listen, that's not me, that was my wife, so I'm not bragging on me, like that's her. If we could look through the lens of our trial, of our suffering, of our struggle, of our mess, of our disability, of like whatever it is, to go, my story, my walk can point people to Jesus, I think we'd walk through suffering very differently. I think we'd be really excited to encounter Jesus in those moments because we could see the impact that it could have on people. So
as opposed to now I'm going through this suffering period, woe is me.
Yeah, or even, and I don't even think it's necessarily woe is me, although self-pity is definitely a personal pet peeve of mine. Sometimes it's just like, I'm not going to share. Like, I'm just going to isolate. I think the enemy can convince us of like, people don't need to know that. That's too messy. You can just handle it within your family. And I would go, every part of our story can be used redemptively. Every single part. But I think sometimes we have to be willing to let God use it. And sometimes the enemy's convinced us to go, like, you don't have to share it. Like, it just as easily in this story could have been the man that slipped into the crowd rather than Jesus. Like, he gets up and walks and just slips into the crowd and lives his life. Like, that's a possibility, but that's not what happens.
Yeah.
He's going, my story is an opportunity to point people to Jesus, and that's what I'm going to do. So, because a lot of people that listen to this go to our church, I would say, like, our church, we should be challenged to use our story, use our mess, use the stuff that Jesus healed in us to help other people, to care for other people. Because that's, I believe, this is why I do counseling, this is why I do care ministry, that's where the miraculous happens, is when we start to use those things to actually care for other people.
If I can just kind of jump in on that as well, we also had my wife had 2 miscarriages before we had Noah, and we're not really going to specifically discuss it. I have another platform where I discuss things to a large audience, and
I'm aware.
We talked about it in pretty big detail, and I had no idea. So many people reach out. I'm sure you experienced the same thing. Yep. So many people reached out and they were like, that happened to us too. And like, it was on a whole different level. I thought when it happened to us, I mean, like, obviously you're like, oh my gosh, this is so devastating personally. But I thought, like, it's so rare. And then you hear from so many people and you're like, wow, I had no idea. So in the moment, to your bigger point, there's no part of me that thought, yay for trials and tribulations. Sure. But then after the fact, and as we were going through it, like, there were so many people that reached out and was like, hey, thank you for talking about this. And I'm sure you guys have had a ton of people. I told you that part in the video almost made me cry. Yeah. That reached out to you and were like, thank you for talking about it and sharing that experience, because the same thing happened to us, And so that part of the story does really resonate with me.
And I think that when people reached out to us, the thing that broke our heart is that they hadn't told anybody.
Yeah.
That this happened 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago or 2 weeks ago, and they were just going, I couldn't tell anybody. And I would tell you that phrase, I can't tell anybody, is a lie from Satan. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a lie to keep us isolated, because he knows that if we start to view our story as something that God can use to redeem other people, man, that he's going to be in trouble. So that's my encouragement. That's what I saw in the story, was so much just like this idea of like, this guy used his experience with Jesus to point other people to Jesus. Mm-hmm.
So. Mine is just right before that, and we've talked about this a couple of times now. I love Jesus as like...
I love that you love Jesus.
Yeah, yes, I love Jesus, or else what are we really doing here? But I love the low-key nature of which the credit goes along with it. I continue to juxtapose like the good versus evil, and the evil is, look what I can do, look what I can do, look what I can do. And Jesus is like, hey, I'm going to do this thing, I'll see you later. And like, oh, I don't need the credit, but just go spread the word.
Ryan, what's your favorite part of the story? And then I want to end the podcast differently today.
Oh,
I want to revisit those questions.
Oh, great. I'm ready.
My favorite part of the story is just all of the behind the scenes stuff, right? Like we talked about the context of the first couple verses, and then how John just weaves it in. I love that. But I wanted to bring up. I appreciate y'all sharing kind of your personal testimonies. Just this passage, I think, connects to this. James chapter 1, verse 2 says, "Consider it a great joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you experience various trials, because you know that the testing of your faith produces endurance. And let endurance have its full effect, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing." I think just when you meet Jesus, that's the only way you could experience that joy. Yep. And that's what I love about this story, is that the man who was healed had that joy and shared it. He didn't sit in bitterness for losing those 38 years, but he was transformed from the inside out.
Sweet.
You want to go back to the questions?
I do. I think it'd be a fun way to end the podcast.
All right. Can I add?
You can just end it whenever you want.
I'm going to add my own question to this.
Nice.
Who is your favorite scribe in the Bible?
Okay.
I don't want to say writer. That
Author type.
Yes. But I didn't want to say writer because that makes it be like, listen to this story that I came up with, you know?
It's tough.
Yeah, it is tough.
Well, let's
I'm
start
probably a Solomon guy.
Okay. I dig that. I dig that.
Proverbs,
Ecclesiastes.
Song of Solomon. That's my world.
I jump around a lot. I'm really indecisive today with these questions.
Yeah, you're struggling.
Yeah.
Also, David is a really good answer here.
I would say maybe Matthew. I love Matthew's gospel and how he connects to the Old Testament.
Me too.
The way that he lays out the Sermon on the Mount is beautiful. But yeah, we're not even saying Paul, which is crazy. We're not saying Moses.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
They're in our power rankings when we get to that later. Now, we'll do that another time. What I told them is, besides, the Holy Trinity, how would you power rank your top 10 characters in the Bible or people in the Bible? Well, that's probably another discussion for another day. In the meantime,
low-key, Joshua's really high up there.
Joshua,
ooh,
Samson.
in your face, Paul.
Say he was higher
I'm
than
kidding. I'm kidding. What's one food you could eat every day?
Chicken fried rice.
Oh,
Love chicken fried rice.
That's a good
call.
answer.
I love it.
Without onions.
I'm pro onion. Give me the crunch. Give me a little spice.
Don't give me the crunch in the bean burrito.
Okay, yeah. See,
But I'd like it in the chicken fried rice. but-
I'm the problematic person at the hibachi places you go to. It's like, hey, could you set off some to the side without the onions for me?
So
That's my
here,
wife for sure.
here is a hack at a hibachi place. So I love food. Order the vegetables broccoli only, so you don't get all that other mess. You just get really good broccoli.
I like it.
Thanks to Howard's. That's the people that taught me
Shout
that
out.
trick. Shout out.
Do you ever pretend like you're a giant and you're eating little trees?
I don't.
He does.
Do you do that?
He does.
Oh, why would you even ask that? What is an activity? I don't even know what you're saying. What is an activity or hobby that you've gotten really into as of late?
As of recently, I mean, man, I don't have hobbies anymore.
Kids.
You can count drumming.
Yeah, I mean, drumming I've done forever,
Yeah.
since I was young. But I will say more so recently because we finally got an acoustic set at the church.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot more fun recently. I
Okay.
will say drumming.
I don't have hobbies either. I'm really into the NBA playoffs this year, which is really shocking because my team's not in it. So it's not a new hobby. Sports is not a new hobby in my life. It's an old idol in my life. Is what it is.
Pacers or bust?
I mean, they're not going to win, but I do like them.
Wow, look at you. You don't know that? They could win? You're probably right, though. What is your dream travel destination? I'll leave it at that. And you know what? This time, Ryan, I figured it out. We're going to start with Wes. We're going to give you a minute to ponder.
Thank you.
What is your
Yeah,
dream?
travel? There's probably. Can I do two? Because I'll just be Ryan this time. Alaskan cruise.
I've done that.
Yeah, but I'm into like the 14-day version. I'd like to be on the extended
Okay.
Alaskan cruise.
Yeah.
Like 5 days. Just because I love cruise ships, man. I love it.
That Alaskan cruise, that was it was 2 years ago. That's the only cruise I've ever been on.
Yeah, love it.
It was super
Love
fun.
cruising. You should go cruise. I know you're not a beach guy. Go cruise the Caribbean.
Okay.
It'll change your beach lens.
So most of my travel, just to throw it out there and buy you more time, I have
I'm
been
my second answer. So
to 49 of the 50 states, and the last one I haven't been to yet is Hawaii. So,
Yep.
and part of that is proximity,
and you're going to go to Germany, which is
Yeah.
not a state.
which is the first time I will have ever left North America. I've been to Canada and Mexico. I've never left the
That'd
continent.
be so cool. I'm so excited for you. The other one, there's a small island off the coast of Turkey called Cyprus. Google it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Okay.
It's kind of like our dream destination, but we're going to have to do something else for a living
Sure.
to make it there.
Not me. I can keep on with my current profession and
doing
go
great.
wherever I want. I'm just kidding. All right. What have we come up with? What is your dream travel destination?
It's got to be Hawaii. It's got to
Okay.
be Hawaii. I mean, you get the mountains, you get the beach, great food, perfect weather.
See,
Can't beat it.
and to combine that with something that you said, Wes, we've talked about doing the Hawaiian cruise because then they stop at every island.
cool.
And so I think that would be a cool experience for sure.
Could it not
I'm
be?
pro cruise, and weirdly, we're going to tie this all back together because that's where Jason is in Bermuda on a cruise, which is why he's not here today.
Very nice. Do you think he's worried at all that people will like this podcast better?
I don't know that he's worried at all right now. He's in Bermuda.
Good point. Good point. All right. For Ryan, for Wes, I've been Kevin. Thank you guys very much for joining us on the Crossroads podcast. We'll see you next week, unless, again,
Without me.
you're behind. What?
Yep.
All right. Does that mean you'll be back?
I hope so.
Depending on how the vote goes. I gotcha. All right. We'll see you next week. Unless you're behind, we'll see you in a couple seconds for the next episode.